or a bit, either you're confused about what is the right amount. I will clear all that as we move on in today's talk. And all your questions and that you may have, we're going to be addressing them at the end of today's session. All right. So why is protein important? Number one, it is one of the three macronutrients that your body needs. By macronutrients, I mean protein, carbohydrates, and fats. These are the macronutrients that your body needs. Besides this, our body needs a lot of micronutrients, which are a different topic. Okay, so today we are talking about one of the nutrient which makes up the three macronutrients. And why is protein important? Because protein is like the building block of your body. It is foundational for your muscle health. It's foundational for your hormone health, for your enzymes, for your skin, for your hair. It is literally the building block of your body. Okay, so that is the basic role of protein, to repair, to build. Therefore, the requirement of protein always remains no matter what age you are in. Okay, so this is why protein is important. It also helps to keep you, besides keeping your muscle mass intact, especially after the age of 30, it also helps to keep you fuller for longer. Okay, so there are certain food groups which, when consumed, give you more satiety than certain other food groups. So protein is one of them which keeps you full for a longer period of time. So if you are looking for a diet which will, curb hunger, then going in for a good amount of protein is going to serve you better. It also it prevents the sugar crashes that come along, after a meal, and it also keeps your metabolism high. Why does that happen? Because protein helps our muscles to grow. When our muscles are there, our metabolism is automatically higher. So people with a higher muscle mass have a higher metabolic rate than people with a lower muscle mass. Sorry for the interruption. It also helps, protein also helps in recovery after illness or after workouts. That's why typically you will find people having a protein shake after a workout. It's a very popular thing to do. It is because your body has gone through an exercise which has, which you have expended a lot of your energy on. So the best way to recover and recuperate is to have a protein shake. And besides that, it also supports your hormones, healthy aging, immunity, and everything to do with your health. Now, the next pertinent question: how much protein do we need? Okay, let's clarify this before we move on to anything else. What is the correct amount or the optimum amount of protein? Now, this answer is more generic. Obviously, for people who are athletes, who are active gym goers, this is not the value that I would be considering. But for most people who have a moderately active lifestyle, then the general recommendation is zero point 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per kg of body weight. Okay. And for convenience sake, I would say let's keep it as 1 gram per kg of body weight. Now, let's look at an example. Supposing there is a lady who is 70 kgs. Okay. Now, does she need, if you go by this calculation, she needs 70 grams of protein. Okay, 1 gram per kg of body weight. But what we need to consider is 70 kg her ideal body weight? So this value is calculated based on an ideal body weight. If you are aiming to be, say, 62 kilos, then the protein calculation will be 62 grams of protein in a day, and which will be evenly split all through the day. All right. So that is the basic, simple ballpark calculation for normal individuals with normal to moderate activity levels. This covers, a few, like an hour of gym and exercise. It covers all of that. But if you are more active than that, if you are an athlete, then of course the requirement goes up. So this is what, you can all do a calculation. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, which is really, it's probably one question that I get asked most often, is about protein powders. Okay, are protein powders good for you? Um, Actually, let me take that after a while, but let's now see. I've already told you how much protein is there in, that you need. Now, how do we calculate that? How do we look at things and figure out? Let's play a little bit of a protein guessing game to give you an idea of how much protein is there in the typical things that we are having every day. Okay, how much protein do you think one egg is giving us? Would anybody like to answer? Anyone? Okay, 6 grams, Nitya and Sanya, you're absolutely correct. 6 grams, and most of the protein in eggs is coming from the egg white. Okay, now, how much protein do you think is there in a glass of milk? Any idea? Nobody? All right, so a glass of milk is about 8 grams of protein. All right, what about 100 grams of chicken breast? Because chicken breast is very high in protein. How much do you think it has? Nitya says 34, which is close. It's 31 grams of protein. It's probably the highest amount of protein that we can have. Okay. How about 100 grams of paneer? How much protein do you think that has? It doesn't matter, Meru, toned or skimmed, full fat, because here we're talking of protein, not the fat. It doesn't matter. The protein remains the same. When you have full fat, you're getting more fats along with it. So how much do you think 100 grams of paneer is giving you? It's anywhere between 18 to 20 grams. Okay. Then what about dal? That's a big one. One katori of dal, typically, in an Indian style meal, we have one small, katori, which is like the general little cup that we have in most Indian households. How much protein do you think it has? Henu says 5 to 6 grams. Anybody else? Aditi says 10. Any other guesses? It's anywhere between 6 to 8 grams. And that is why I tell all my clients, my female clients, that just having one bowl of dal is not giving you the amount of protein that is sufficient. All right, let's move on to almonds. How much do you think a handful of almonds is going to give you? Like we normally say that nuts are high in protein. How much do you think uh, a handful of almonds are giving you in terms of protein? Any guesses? Nitya is saying 21 grams per 100 gram. So a handful would be uh, say about 12 to 15. Okay. All right. Let me give you the answer. So a handful of almonds, which is roughly 12 to 15 almonds can give you anywhere between 6 to 8 grams of protein. All right. Now, what about 100 gram of fish? How much do you think of salmon or any other fish? White fish. How much of protein in 100 grams of fish? We have answers like 20, 25. Anybody else? Yeah, I think this one, most of you have got it right. It's about 25 grams of protein. Okay. And 1 scoop of whey protein. You know, the protein powder whey. Whey is actually the part of milk which has all the protein in it. How much do you think that gives you? 24. Someone is saying. Yeah, roughly correct. It's anywhere, depending on the brand, anywhere between 20 to 25 grams of protein. Now, this game was to give you an idea as to how much protein there is in the general foods that we are having. Okay, one more question. Which which fruit do you think has the maximum amount of protein? Any ideas? Which fruit? No one? Any guesses? Yeah, Bhavna's got it correct. Guavas. Guavas have the maximum amount of protein. All right. So this was, as I said, to give you an idea on general foods and the amount of protein they have, so that you know in the ballpark, like if you've had a breakfast with 2 eggs, you know that 12 grams of protein is done. And if you've had a handful of almonds with it, then another perhaps 6 to 8 grams. So if any lady is supposed to have 60 grams of protein in a day, she can divide it into 30, say about 20, 20, and 20 across the 3 meals. Okay, so 20 at breakfast, 20 at lunch, and 20 at dinner. That will give you your 60 grams of protein. Now, if this number goes up, this calculation, then accordingly, this number will also get adjusted and changed. All right. I hope everyone is with me so far. Now, let's move on to the next pressing concern, which no matter how much I talk about it on social media, how much I talk about it to my patients, my clients, people feel that vegetarians are not getting enough protein. So the general question always is, oh, but a vegetarian diet, how do you get your protein on that? That's very protein deficient. So I want to clarify this, and I keep doing it all the time just to put this doubt at rest. That is, that there is nothing lacking in a vegetarian diet. Okay. Uh, Now, there are two kinds of proteins which you need to consider when you are planning your meals. One is a complete protein, and the other is an incomplete protein. Now, what do I mean by that? Protein is made up of these 9 essential amino acids. Okay, amino acids are the little peptides which are the building block of protein. Now, the complete proteins have all these 9 amino acids, whereas the incomplete proteins do not have all the 9 essential amino acids. They have one or two of them missing. So, for example, dal is an incomplete protein. And rice is also, or wheat is also an incomplete protein. But when you combine them together, you are getting complete protein. And this combination need not be in the same meal. It can be split in the day also. So you don't have to have your carb and protein at the same time. You can kind of space it out. So in a vegetarian diet, there are many, many examples of complete proteins, which are which can be taken by vegetarians. I'm going to give you some examples shortly. But there are some of these incomplete proteins which are very well combined. That is why traditionally our diets have been built around that. We always have beans or dal, legumes with some sort of a carb along with it, just to give you a complete amino acid profile. Now, let's go through some of the examples of vegetarian protein. Let me throw this to the audience. Tell me, what do you think are the good sources of vegetarian protein? Quinoa, yes. What is quinoa, by the way? Quinoa is a pseudo grain, okay? And it is a very good source. Somebody is saying tofu. Now, all soy products, which is tofu, tempeh, edamame, soy milk, soybeans, all these are complete sources of vegetarian protein. And I would encourage you to use this in your diet. What else? So um, we've covered soy products, we've covered quinoa. What else? Can questions be asked later? Okay, milk. Somebody said milk. Somebody said feta. So basically all dairy. So all kinds of dairy. When I'm talking about dairy, what do I mean? I mean milk, obviously. We've already discussed that. But I also mean Greek yogurt, a very, very great source of protein. Okay. And regular yogurt also. But why is Greek yogurt higher in protein than regular yogurt? Reason is because it's a more concentrated form of protein. I mean, of the yogurt. So the yogurt, if whichever the yogurt that's made at home, has a lot of water also in it. When you drain out that water, that thick yogurt that you get is basically what is Greek yogurt, and it gives you higher amount of protein than regular yogurt. All right. So Greek yogurt, paneer, cottage cheese, what about that? That's a huge part of a vegetarian diet. So paneer or cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, regular yogurt, milk and cheese, all kinds of cheeses. These are all sources of vegetarian protein. Now, obviously, if you are a vegan, all these have to be removed. So for a vegan, the options become more narrow, but it's not impossible. There are other options also, which we will discuss. Okay, what about, okay, nuts and seeds? Absolutely, particularly seeds. And in the seeds, the ones that are high in protein are chia seeds and hemp seeds. Okay, you've all heard of hemp seeds, right? And chia seeds. These are the two seeds which are higher in protein. They all are, but these are the two high protein seeds. And of course, nuts also. What else? What else are we missing? Any guesses? Buckwheat. Okay. Buckwheat is not wheat. It's another grain. It's not a millet. It's not a cereal. It is basically, again, a pseudo cereal. In Hindi, it's called kuttu atta, and it is used very commonly in the fasting period. Okay. But buckwheat can actually be incorporated all through the year. It does not have to be just a food which we have in the fasting period. You can have it all through the year. How do you have it? Buckwheat can be used to make granolas. It can be used to, the flour of buckwheat can be used to make rotis and chilas and dosas. You can add it into cakes, into cookies. So it's a very, very versatile um, product, a very versatile food that you can use in various ways. What else, guys? What else has protein? Rajma we've covered. So all the beans, lentils, legumes, they of course have protein, very high in protein. What else? What else are we missing? How about millets and oats? Yes, somebody just said millets. Yes, millets and oats, those are also high in protein. So, see, vegetarians are not really lacking in protein. What else? Are we missing anything? Have you heard of moringa, guys? I'm sure you've all heard of moringa. Moringa leaves, okay, are a source of complete protein. I don't know if that comes as a surprise for some of you, but it is actually a source of 100% complete protein. So moringa is again so versatile, and it has benefits which go way beyond just protein. So the good thing about food sources of protein is that they're not giving you only protein. They're giving you so much more also. When you're having a protein powder, you are only getting protein, nothing else. Okay. But when you are having a food source of protein, you are getting protein, you are getting healthy fats, you are getting vitamins, you are getting many minerals, you're getting loads of fiber. So beans, legumes, lentils are full of fiber. They're fiber rich. They have much more fiber than vegetables. That is why I am a huge proponent for having foods which are rich in protein rather than protein powders. I'm going to be coming to protein powders very soon because I know that's again a topic which a lot of people want to know more about. But I have to mention two or three other complete proteins. Now, everything that I'm mentioning so far are all complete proteins, guys. They are just like you have any non-vegetarian item. So, have you heard of amaranth? It's also called Rajgira. Again, that is a complete protein and very versatile. You can make chilas, you can make cakes, you can make cookies, you can make rotis, you can make so many things with Rajgira. Even with puffed Rajgira, you can make granolas. It's a very laddus. It's a very, very versatile um, food item also. And last but not the least, I know that is not used very often by us, is spirulina. Okay, spirulina is another source of complete protein. Now, of course, in fact, it's got one of the highest protein value. But the point is that we can't have spirulina in larger amounts. You can have, say, a teaspoon in a smoothie or in a drink or something, but beyond that, it's a bit difficult to consume. That is why spirulina is best had as a supplement. But otherwise, it's a complete protein and it's a wonderful food to add to a vegetarian diet. I hope now that vegetarians are at peace and the non-vegetarians are not going to say, okay, vegetarian diets are lacking in protein. So that takes care of that. Now, let's move on to protein powders. Okay. How many of you are having protein powders regularly? Okay. So mostly no, not regularly. All right. That's fine. Now, why are protein powders important? There are two kinds of protein powders, okay? Again, we have the whey protein and we have the vegetarian protein powders, right? Now, let's talk about the vegetarian protein powders first. And why is is one better than the other? Not really. They both are equally good. It's not that one is better than the other, but it depends on a preference. Of course, if you are intolerant to dairy, then it's better you go in for a vegetarian protein powder. A vegetarian protein powder, a good one, has a mix of different kinds of protein. So basically, it will have a mix of pea protein, brown rice protein, hemp powder and stuff like that, so that they're adding different things and to make it into a complete protein. That also gives you about 25 grams of protein per scoop. And a whey protein powder, which is more common. So if you see athletes and all, they have more of whey protein powder. That is also very good as long as you consume dairy. Okay. So in whey protein, we can divide that again. So we have normal whey protein powders, which has about 70% of protein, but it also has lactose, which is the milk from dairy, and it has some fat solids also. Then we have whey protein isolate. What does that mean? Here, the protein has been isolated from the whey. So they have higher protein amounts and lower amounts of lactose and fat. That is why, if you're lactose intolerant, then whey protein isolates are a better option for you. And lastly, the most refined one is a whey protein hydrolysate. These are extremely rich in protein. Okay, they have almost zero lactose and zero fat solids, and they have a very high absorption rate. The only thing is that they are a little bit bitter. So again, if you're an athlete and you get a cramp while you're playing or something, then it makes sense to have a hydrolysate version. But otherwise, normal protein or whey protein isolates are a good idea. Now, is it a good idea in general to have protein powders? That's the question. My answer is yes, but it should only be bridging the gap between a nourishing, complete meal, a balanced meal. It should not be a replacement for food. That, okay, today I'm not having lunch. Let me just have a scoop of protein powder and be done with it. Because as I told you earlier, when you have food sources of protein, you are not only getting protein, you're getting much more along with it. And all those other things are also equally important for your health. It's not all about protein. But when you take protein powders, that's all you're getting. So you cannot replace your meals with that. Okay? Sorry, guys, I'm just getting a call in the middle. It is a very good idea to bridge the gap. So if you feel on a certain day that I'm not getting enough protein, my diet has been deficient, then it's a good idea. Like supposing you've gone out and you've not really planned your lunch, and you come home and you have a little salad or something, and then you want to add on a protein shake with it, that's completely okay. And when you're buying a protein powder, the important thing to note is to read the ingredient label to see how many additives, extra sugars, emulsifiers, etc. have been added to it. And plus, the protein powder should be something which is third party tested, because the last thing you want is to consume a protein powder which is going to have a negative impact on your health. Okay, so that is as far as protein powders are concerned. Now, my last thing for today, let's try and cover some of the myths around protein. Many people feel that protein is only for people who are gymming very regularly and lifting heavy and everything else. That's not true at all. Of course, their protein needs are more than normal people, but each and every person from the age of 20 and above, everybody needs protein. Okay. And the other thing is, typically people think, oh, women will get bulky. They'll get, they'll put on muscle and they will look bulky. That's again not true at all. In fact, women need protein more than anything else, because as women age, they start losing muscle mass. And when they start losing muscle mass, their metabolism goes down. When their metabolism goes down, their weight starts going up. They start piling up those pounds, and they also start getting belly fat. Now, in order to combat that, make your meals your meals should be much more protein centric. Okay, so women must have protein. Another myth which I've just clarified, vegetarians can't get enough protein. I think I've just clarified that. So vegetarians have absolutely no dearth. For vegans, yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, but otherwise it's for them also, it's good. proteins damage kidneys. That's not true at all. Again, if you have healthy kidneys, which can process, certain amounts of protein, it is completely okay. Of course, if you are having too much protein and overloading your system, then the kidneys can crash. But in general, it's not a problem at all. Okay. And if you have too much protein, what do you expect your body to have? It'll show you itself. You will have digestive issues. You will feel bloated. You will feel full. It'll then start also giving you too many calories. So it'll start having the reverse effect, and it can put strain on your kidneys also. Any other myths that you would like me to clarify? Or have I covered them all? Suggest a good brand. Oh my God. Um, as long as can men have a lot of, yeah, what is the meaning of a lot of soy products? When you say lot, I'm not sure what you mean, but if you're having, say, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, it's completely okay. It's a huge myth again. Soy, again, is a product, is a food group which is, ridden with all sorts of myths around it. Men can certainly have soy, and it does not cause any increase in estrogen for men, nothing like that at all. But of course, if you're going to have it breakfast, lunch, dinner, and every day, then you have a problem for sure. All right. So now the floor is open for questions. As a hosteler like me, okay, good brand. Uh, the brand that I can tell you safely that I am, having I prefer, vegan protein than whey protein. It's a personal choice. It's got nothing to do with anything else. There's a brand in India called Cosmix. It's relatively clean, and that's the one I like. It's also got some digestive enzymes in it, and this thing is not sponsored by them. Nothing at all. This is just coming from my personal experience. But there is Wellbeing Nutrition. They also are a good brand. There are several brands in India which are quite good. And as far as whey protein is concerned, I think Optimum Nutrition or something, their whey protein is very good. But to choose a protein powder, the best thing to do is to check if it is third party tested and look at the label at the back. If there are, like at least 20 to 30 ingredients, and some of them which you cannot even pronounce, then do not have that protein powder. Go for protein powders with minimal ingredients and some sort of third party testing that is supported also. So if you look at that, then whichever brand supports this, it's good. Anything else? Can we have protein powder after an evening workout, say 7 p.m.? Shall I skip dinner then if I sleep at 10 p.m.? Oh, so you're saying you'll just have protein powder after an evening workout? I don't think that's a great idea, I would suggest that you have a meal once in a while is okay. That, you don't feel like cooking, or, you're too tired. Once in a while is okay, but not on an everyday basis. For a hosteler like many, any tips on protein intake? Okay, I don't know whether what kind of facilities you have in the hostel. Are you cooking yourself, or are you taking meals which are already pre-cooked? What I would suggest is keep in mind everything that I've suggested. Okay, so if there is a meal that is already being made in the hostel, choose from the items that are high in protein. In your plate, take the protein item first, and then put your rice or chapati. Okay, so don't first put the rice and put everything else. First put your protein items, and then, so maybe a piece of chicken and a dal or paneer, or soybeans or whatever it is, and then you add your vegetables, and you add a little amount of any sort of grains carbohydrate. And of course, if you're a hosteler and you want to supplement it, you feel that, the meals that you're getting are not very high protein, then you can definitely rely on any good protein powder and make a shake out of it and have it. Uh, Yeast, that is, yeah, absolutely. That is also good. Nutritional yeast is very good. And nutritional yeast also gives you a lot of B12. So that's a good idea. You can have that. If you like the taste of that, you can have that. Okay.
Someone's asked about protein X, or I mean just protein in general for a mother, maybe for like a maybe I think this is someone who maybe had a baby recently. So what would be your recommendation for someone who's had a child? What
Yeah, so
is the
if you have delivered recently or if you're pregnant, your protein needs are definitely higher. Okay, so I would say instead of 1 gram per kg of body weight, 1.2 grams per kg of body weight is a better figure to look at. 1.2 to 1.5. Okay, is because your body is there's another body growing inside you. Okay, while you are pregnant. So, as I've told you earlier, protein is the building block of health. All your cells, hormones, enzymes, skin, hair, nails, even people who come to me with hair issues. I first tell them, I want to see what your diet looks like in terms of protein. Hair is also made of protein. So if you are on a low protein diet, you will see the impact on your hair also. Now, even after you've had a baby and delivered, your body, you are lactating, you're producing milk. So you have to support your body to heal and repair and feel strong again. And therefore, your protein requirements go up. So, what I would suggest is keep in your mind or make a list of all the high protein foods that you think you can incorporate in your diet. Okay. Okay. Because you have your own likes and dislikes also. But, and again, you may be a vegetarian, you may be a vegan. So, keeping that in mind, you make a list of all the items of which are protein rich, which you don't mind eating or which you enjoy eating, and then you plan your meals around that protein rich food. Don't plan your meals around carb items, plan your meals around the protein rich food. So, supposing I am making, say, you know, even if I'm making, say, a rice in any form, it could be a fried rice, it could be a biryani or whatever else. Don't make rice the center of the dish. Make the protein a center of the dish. So the ratio should be 2:1. 2 should be the protein, 1 has to be the rice. So for vegetarians, they can add paneer, they can add soy chunks, they can also replace rice with quinoa. So you can have half quinoa, half rice. Those kind of options. If you're a non-vegetarian, of course, you have much more option. You can put chicken, you can put eggs in your rice. So keep in mind that my meal has to be protein focused and not carb focused. Any other question? American Army's victory. Yeah. If you do that, trust me, if you do a 2:1 ratio, you will also find a lot of impact on your weight because you will be fuller for longer. And you will not be having cravings for various things that you have when you are on a high carbohydrate diet. I am by no means suggesting that you completely eliminate carbohydrates. I'm not saying that at all. And particularly for women, it can actually have a very adverse effect. But what I'm telling you is, instead of making carb the main center stage of your plate, make protein the main center stage of your plate. It's also said that protein-rich diet is not easy on the gut. So how to Okay, well, uh, if you have a gut which is sensitive, if you have a gut which is not able to process foods, then Instead of increasing your protein, I would attend to your gut first. Because see, you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. If you're eating everything correctly, but your body is not able to absorb it, then there's no point. A, you're not getting the nutrients. B, you're also not, you're actually creating problems. You'll feel bloated, you'll feel, gassy, and you will not feel comfortable. So the first thing to do is to address your gut health. Once your gut health is good, then you slowly start increasing protein. Also, don't, if you are having a low protein diet, don't immediately jump to a high protein diet. Increase it very slowly. And one more tip that I'd like to leave you with is always front load your protein. Have more protein in the morning than at night. It'll be easier for your body to process it. So your breakfast should be high protein. Your lunch should be high protein, but your dinner need not be, because that is the time your digestive fire is low and you may not be able to process the protein well. Right? Anything else? It's been such a pleasure talking to you all. I hope you found this session useful. I did try and cover most of the important topics that I feel that people have questions about, but feel free to ask any more questions that you have. Otherwise, we'll wind up for the day. I know it's late for you all in India also. Wonderful. It was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nitya, Meru. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I also loved being here. Thank you, Sanya, for putting this together. It was a pleasure to talk to everyone on a very, very important topic. So great. Wishing you all health and happiness
We've
and high
all learned,
protein meals.
yeah, we've all learned so much, and I think we've all become a little more educated, and hopefully a lot of us will start bringing that focus on protein which we want. And I think there was a lot of skepticism about protein powders, so I think even for me, like, I have taken them, but I've always felt like I'm not 100% sure what, whether my body is digesting it well. I'm feeling bloated, so this clears up a lot of doubts for, I think, all of us. And I think even in terms of some of the vegetarian source of protein, some of them were ones that we had no idea about. So it was super cool to learn about, things that we've heard are superfoods, but we didn't know there's such good source of protein too. So thank you so much. This
You are
was
most
absolutely
welcome. You're most welcome,
lovely.
Sanya. It was such a pleasure. And
Yeah,
I'm glad that you all are going a little more informed about protein. And all the women here, especially, are going to be more conscious of the protein that they eat. And
100%.
vegetarians, you don't need to fear at all.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Good night, everyone.